Well, we're here with Franz, and this introduction is going to be spoken through ChatGPT. Um, and here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Franz, the coach's wizard. Franz isn't just a tech guru, he's an ATG, all-time great in coaching, armed with both coaching wisdom and IT expertise. I've hung out with Franz, and guess what? He's a tech nerd with a hilarious twist. Imagine Tony Stark with coaching superpowers and a comedian's timing. Franz doesn't just work hard, he's the harmony hustle hybrid we all need. He's destined for greatness, whether the world knows it or he's behind something massive. Coaches of the modern world, Franz is your guiding star. He's the tech coach genius who cracks jokes, drops wisdom bombs, and shows you the way. So here's to Franz, the coach, the tech aficionado, the laughter bringer. Get ready for his coaching magic.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that is definitely the best ChatGPT introduction I ever had. I'm never going to introduce myself differently than this. Next level is just speaking it like using Descript, having it use my own language, and then I'll always introduce myself like that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would say welcome everyone to this little presentations about essentially AI, using AI for coaching. I didn't know how to deep dive here, so I have a few things I would like to show you. While I'm showing them, I would like to show you a few more tools that I'm using just as I'm practically using them and give you some inspiration. I believe it's important for everyone of us coaches to, if we want to become the coach of the future who's still able to strive in the future, we should stay at the pulse and like move with the flow of the AI and everything. And that's kind of the main purpose of today's call. I want to show you some of the things that I found that worked out, that once you start experimenting with it can be amazing, and make it an inspirational call, but hopefully also show you a few things to work with. So I made a pick, or like I picked a combination between a few things that I believe are helpful and a few things that I just wanted to show you to show some of the power. So I'll just start with the screen sharing. Here we go. Oh, 1 second. The AI guy is already overworked with sharing the screen. Now here we go. So we're going to do a little presentation. I'm not going to do a massive introduction because Max did it so well. I'll just do like a brief 30-second thing that I find interesting. I've been doing online coaching for the last 11, 12 years. For the first half of my time, I did it non-profit or for free in different forums, groups for non-profit organizations, something I enjoyed. It started because I studied IT and was a calisthenics nerd, so I coached calisthenics online, and eventually turned into making a bit of my profession, and was the first time challenged in upscaling online coaching through technology when working for ATG for Coaches, and being the main person handling like all of the like not customer support, but like coaching, support, and all of these things. And I had to like get used to handling people from kind of 24 time zones around the world, scheduling calls, answering messages, and so on. And over the last couple years, my productivity increased massively. I have 2 tech startups that I'm working on that work around like coaching and tech solutions for trainers and develop training programs with automations. And today's presentation will go into a few of the tools that will help me, and also going into some basic ideas and things. The first one I would like to start with, that's a quicker one, but I feel like it's a massive one. And I forgot that I'm using it until I realized, wow, this helped me so much, like in so many ways, but it's so basic that I forgot about it. So the idea is the following. Connections are key in the current digital times. And this can be connecting with other coaches. This can be coaching calls that you're paid for, consultancy calls, online personal trainings, in-person PTs, discovery calls, onboarding, sales, whatever you do, whatever your department. And I believe for most of us, we use something to save time scheduling, not go like, especially if you work internationally, oh, which times are you in? Or can you make 2 p.m. Oh no, mine 2. No, you're 2 p.m. Doesn't work. So I feel like 90% of the people use Calendly. But it's always a question you ask yourself, like, how much time should you free for your calls? To give you a fun background story, because I was doing these calls all around the world, I freed some time in my like 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then it's some like my 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. But then the thing is, someone in the US, I'm like 6 to 9 hours ahead of the US, and many clients were in the US, and they want to do it in the afternoon or in their evening, but then it's my afternoon. So then I started freeing different times on my Wednesday and Thursday afternoon. But then they wanted to do their morning, which was my evening again, and it was always confused me. It was a struggle to make this happen for a lot of time. I felt like, why can't this happen? And Calendly already does it, that if something is blocked in your calendar, it doesn't allow you to book it. But the fun thing is, wait a second, if you use time blocking a lot, then you block times just to work in them, and you could receive calls because there's the time block in your calendar. No, Calendly doesn't schedule a call. That's kind of the issue I ran into. And the tool that I found by accident was one that helps with this, which I don't know why this one is priced here, which is a tool called Reclaim AI. Someone has interest in this, I can send you a link later, or like Max can provide it, Andres. It's essentially a call scheduling tool like Calendly, where you set work, personal hours. You can even have more hours, different, if you have different jobs, different work hours. And if you have different personalities, you can have different personal hours, depending what you want to do. Then you can connect your calendars, add a few tasks, and the magic starts to happen. Because what it does, you can see like you can have different working hours, meeting hours, personal hours, even one-off hours that can have different calendars. And then one step further there, we go one step further, wait a second. Here we go. You can set times, like for example, for decompression or travel time. They're working on a nice travel time thing. So if you have an in-person PT, you can set it to 30 minutes or 60-minute travel time. And then if someone books this based on the location, it frees additional time before or afterwards. If you don't have a 2-hour time window for a 1-hour session plus travel, it doesn't enable the time in the calendar. So this was a massive thing that helped me in automating travel time, decompression after calls to follow up, and not forget to follow up on all of the work after the calls. You can set priorities. This was one of the most amazing things, and you will understand in a second. You can set priorities for your calls, which allow you to schedule these calls. Now you might ask yourself, wait a second, why should I schedule priorities? What's the help with this? This thing doesn't only schedule you some calls, it also schedules you your tasks, habits, and other things like this. And all of these things you can set basic priorities. And what this allows you then in return is, for example, if I have a low priority meeting this morning and someone wants to schedule a call, the time will still show to them and they can book it, which allowed me to go into this time boxing, time blocking system where I schedule a lot of the work throughout the day. But still, most of my calendar is free and available for calls. Just making sure when I'm on the road traveling or something, it's not going to book it in, and so on. So this was like a massive thing that helped me a lot. Another one, and that's like a rather simple one, but you can set different times, because like I used to have like 6 events that go like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45, 1 hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, just to have different times. That way someone can go in depending how long they pick. Like I want to go 1 hour 30. It only shows them times where 1 hour 30 are free. If they just want a quick check-in, they go for 15 minutes, and there's nearly always a 15 or 10-minute time window in your calendar. That was a massive game changer for my online coaching clients. So they can book short, quick check-in calls through most of my day that we can just check in, do a quick check-in, answer a quick question. Sometimes it's just a phone call, and go ahead. Then the thing is like, okay, scheduling tasks, how does this work? So one of the amazing things what they do is, if you schedule a task, you can set a duration for like any minutes, hours, like 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. You can allow it to split up and say like, break this 2-hour task of the follow-up from this nice presentation down into at least 30-minute blocks. And last time I didn't get anything done, but not more than 1 hour. So I know this task is broken down. This is especially for all of you that struggle with like not being able to sit down 4 or 6 hours on one topic, or the other way around. Like sometimes you want to sit down on something that's a 10-hour task in at least 4-hour blocks. So then if it schedules you, you set the minimum to 4 hours so that you have a real deep work session. And I'm going to show you like a quick look into my calendar in a second to see like how this works for me or what it was doing for me. But before we go there, if you have a lot of recurring tasks, this is what they build habits with. This is a quick look into how my habits look. Like every day I have a morning catch up, which is a priority habit. So it's not going to be overscheduled by calls. It always needs to happen. This is where I check my work for the day, emails, follow up with clients. If the company is burning, learn that the company is burning and call the firefighters. Lunch, I tend to forget to eat. So lunch is a priority for me to schedule some time in. If I'm intermittent fasting, that's kind of my breakfast, but this thing doesn't need to know what it is. It just reminds me to do this usually between at least 25 minutes to 50 minutes to get some lunch in. And then I'll have some like lower priority, doesn't mean they're not important. It just means high priority meeting can overschedule them. Low priority meeting cannot schedule over them. And you can make your meetings very protective or not protective at all. This is kind of like a very cool thing to work through. So you can determine how protective a task, a habit, or anything is as you set them up. I have some authoring, so I write a lot of programs and things like this. So this for me is authoring. I have afternoon catch-ups. They're not as important, but I still have them in. As I do my ATG for Coaches work, I at least schedule 90 minutes to 3 hours every day for these. There's always more work to be done, but this is the guaranteed thing that's freed and blocked that I can done on every day. And then I have other time blocks and things where I can work. Recently, I even played with scheduling my daily workout. And when you schedule these, you can show like, okay, say like this should happen between these times of the day, optimally at this time. So you have a lot of options that help you do this. If you're interested, I can show you a quick look into this. But I just wanted to show you like a little, a little bit how this tool can work. So in the end, what this is it's an awesome tool to combine your scheduling, like in your Calendly, with some time blocking or time boxing and task management. Habit time blocking, which is massive for me. Like I want some time in the morning free to walk the dog. I don't care if it's happening at 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. if I leave at 10, but it needs to happen. And then one of the things that I haven't explored too much, but I hope that I'm going to explore way more in the future is their smart one-on-one. So if multiple users use this thing, you can just invite someone to a smart one-on-one, and it's going to find the optimal time that fits both our calendars. This works optimally with other users of the platform. And so far, like most of my colleagues are all addicted on Calendly and like, no, I stay with Calendly, but like potentially some want to try this out. For me, it's not that Calendly is not working. What this was doing is it allowed me to do this like smart task and habit management of like recurring work that I may be paid for, different types of work with tasks and so on. So take a quick look at how my calendar currently looks as like an example week. This is like a little calendar session where you can see like my morning 6 to 7 a.m. Like the green thing I just blocked, that's kind of my sleep here. You don't have to block it. You can have your hours. I just have it extra saved as my reminder. So even my calendar shows me it's sleep time now, go to sleep. So 6 to 7 a.m. usually blocks me like my morning walk. There's some buffer in there, like in the travel time, so I can take a quick shower. If I have the personal training sessions, the personal training session is going to happen, and they're blocked like a 90-minute time window for them. Then there's like extra travel time happening there. There's certain things, meetings, times blocked. Sometimes like things can happen at the same time, like a call, just being somewhere. But you can see how my authoring is scheduled through most of the days. But my Tuesday is so full with different work that it's not showing in there. So I might do it on some of the other free times. Like for me, it only scheduled until 6 p.m. So most on the days I work until 10 p.m. So I'm flexible to keep my evenings like I want them and usually get way more work done then. But I don't want it overscheduled. So that's like one of the benefits of work and personal hours. And then you can see like all of the gray events, all of these ones are smart scheduled calls that are put in the calendar. Now, the amazing thing is most of the times that these calls are sitting, previously to-dos were sitting, authoring, submissions, whatever. And they were just replaced by these more higher priority client consultation calls, Uncam Connects, ATG for Coaches client calls, and so on. So this is one of the things that was amazing for me. Recently, I'm even exploring it with my personal training clients. So if you're like a physical coach who's coaching in person, training, you do in-person sessions, they can even schedule this through this. And you can block like a 3-4 hour time window to make sure the time is there. This is the recline. Before I'm leaving this, I would like to just show like it in usage for a quick second. So here we go. This is like how my calendar looks here. And just to show, like, I'm just going into the next week. You see like all of these things happening here. And that's kind of how it looks in the reclaim calendar. So what it pre-schedules here, you see all of these like kind of like shine through transparent ones. These are preset sessions, but they're still open and flexible to move around. But I still see them, that it plans me to do the submissions here, there, at this time, then the authoring. Now, if I'm going to create a task, I can just say like, I want a new task, and I say like, okay, I have like a chat with Max about the world. This is going to be at least a 3-hour chat. Let's say like, yeah, 3 hours. But I know like if we talk more than like 1 hour, it's going to be like too much. So I say like 1 hour to 2 hours. That's not, let's say 1 hour to like 90 minutes. Here we go. And then I say like, I want this my working hours. What it's going to do if I go back into my planner, it's literally going to schedule it right away. So in a few seconds, you will see like a life change in the calendar happening where it's scheduled this in. Let's see, Max, when we're going to have our meeting. Wait a second, I have to go into next week. So there we go. Tomorrow, Max, now we're going to chat about the world, about what's this, 3:30 to 4 something until I have the next call right between these. It might have been scheduling some more things. Oh yeah, there's one more in the morning. Max, you're more important than my morning walks. So it put it in there in my morning walk as well. So like, this is just an exciting thing that I realized that was like quite nice and helpful. And I feel like it's one of the ways where I can just save you some time. And I honestly believe these tools will get better. So in the future, you can schedule like client session and things like this. We'll see. Awesome. Any questions about this tool before I'm moving over to the next one?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
got
go
a
ahead.
question, and then Garrett, I see, has a hand up as well. So
Yeah.
currently, I'm using Notion for tasks and projects, and I like how you can store, you can have all your notes for a project in a project page, and you can also see the tasks. So there's that component of everything in one place. Do you think Notion will ever adopt AI with project management, or do you think, and how do you feel about this idea of having multiple systems, And
I
and
don't
I
think
mean, I
that
know you use Notion a lot as well, so
100%. The way that I see it is like they have a lot of integrations, kind of like running through this thing. So for example, I have my Rake, like I have a lot of scheduling links. Raycast is the second tool I wanted to show you and wasn't sure about, but you would see it anyway. If you're on a Mac, this replaces your Spotlight. So this is your normal Spotlight where you can search something. What Raycast does, it's essentially an AI Spotlight on steroids, or whatever is your performance enhancing drug that you want to use for the brain. So I'll give you an example. I have my reclaim in here. So I can just type in like scheduling links and it's going to pull up all of my schedule links right away. And I can quickly insert them here. Or I can, like, in general, if I want to do some things, you see, I can create tasks, quick tasks, join meetings, search through my task right through my Spotlight. So this is the first kind of thing. This is the magic of Raycast. We're going to dive into this in a few minutes as well, but that's just showing the integration number one. But what's even nicer is this thing integrates with kind of a lot of things already, and they're building more. So I have, as an example, Notion in task management as well. And you can quickly, easily combine your Notion task management with Google Tasks, Todoist, any other task management platform you want to use. And if the other platforms integrates with Raycast, you can have everything in one place. So Todoist is just a connecting thing that just stores them as a one example, or Google Tasks. I actually have this thing going on. So if I go into like my, wait a second, in my like email, this is like my personal email. If I go somewhere like here and I have something, I can create like a task out of this. And this task will be scheduled in my reclaim. So it's in my reclaim task. I have different general task and reclaim task, this thing will be scheduled automatically in my reclaim because I added it there. You can even see chat with Max about the world is now visible in my Google Task, in my email. So integrations work many, many ways, and you can 100% integrate it. That's the necessity even. You just have to find a way that works for you. Like, you could maximally set it up in a way that in Notion, you have like the min and max time of every task and the general estimated time there. And then you could do like an automation, and what the automation is going to do, it's kind of like assuming the duration of the task based on your AI summary of the Notion task, and then it sets it to like 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or 2 hours if you want to go that deep. So there are always options. Because we only have this hour for today, I thought I'd keep it simple, but it's an amazing question, and absolutely you can go ahead with it.
Thanks, Garrett. Garrett, do you have a question? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I believe this is going to help me really become more efficient with my scheduling. My question for you is, I want to do what you've just explained, but honestly, it looks super overwhelming. Do you have any advice for how to approach it in a way that might help me overcome that feeling?
100%. And I can absolutely speak of experience. One of the biggest things that overwhelmed me all of the time was exactly this. There's so many things going on and you're overwhelmed with all of the software. I have a little workflow. I'm happy to share how I started using it. And if I recommend other coaches to help them with like coaching to set it up, this is the workflow. The first thing is they have one downside, and that is you cannot currently, they're working on it, but currently you can't charge through your calls. But if you're not charging through your calls, you can start to move from this platform, from Calendly to this platform, only for your calls. That's it. So that's kind of like a no-brainer starting that doesn't cost you much stuff. This is the first thing you do. Then every now and then when you have something that you're procrastinating a lot, you get out of the habit of writing down somewhere I need to do it, and you just use this quick task creation in here. Is my screen still sharing? My screen is a bit buggy, but yeah, I think it's showing it's all right. So then you just start, you build like I usually use the basic settings because even if I don't use the whole 1 hour, it's totally fine. So I'm just adding a task, whatever my task is, and it just schedules it for me. And then when it happens, I do it. So that's how you get used to, like, it shows up in my calendar, I do this stuff, it schedules it in. I literally started with no habits at all. I had 0 habits, I deleted all of them, no tasks, just have the calls, and slowly started to add it in. And the first thing that I did, that was my thing, I tend to, if emails are too long, I procrastinate on some emails. And Gmail has this nice, like, turn an email into a task where you just hit a button, it becomes a task, this thing. So I built this integration and I started to reclaim only to the emails that take me some time to answer. I have this rule, if I can answer it in below 5 minutes, I have to do it right away. If it takes me much longer, I schedule it. So I only did it for this, and for a month, a season, a year, you only do this. So in a step-by-step process, instead of trying to move everything over, you start to like automate tiny things, whether it's your emails, or like I literally just did it for me for personal training sessions. I just had some personal training clients use it and say, like, for Zoom PTs, use this tool for my Zoom PTs. And with the decompression before and after scheduled, it were just nice, helpful things. And as it started helping me more, naturally, I started to use it more because it actually freed me time and energy. So instead of going 0 to hero, I went from 0 to 1, and it was purely success driven. Meaning, when you feel like you're overwhelmed by something, you put it in. You don't just flood it with your task and things, and then there are 40 unanswered tasks on the schedule and you don't do them. You just train a bad habit. And then if all of this stuff is happening, then you can start to organize and go like, now I'm taking a closer look at priorities. So for example, if you want to see this in my scheduling links, they are for different projects, different links, like general ones for ATG for coaches, a Q&A call that any coach in ATG can access, for like one of the tech startups, for affiliates, and for like some of my own stuff, like if Uncam Connect calls, these things are going through. there are different priorities. Like I just realized, like, wait a second, if someone is paying me 3-digit per hour for like a good tech consultancy call, that's a priority. So I made this call. If I go down here, wait a second, where is it? There's the editing. I just said like, okay, this is a high priority. And then I set it up like this. Or then a week later, I realized like I created a new habit. Like my new habit is now like whatever, like AI blogging. And I know this just takes me like 15 minutes to 30 minutes. I want this done in my personal hours for now. I want it done 5 days a week. There's like, you can say every other week, you can do all of these different things, just getting started with it. And then you can set like an ideal time. This is super helpful for me. I said like, this should happen at like 8 p.m. That's the ideal time for me. Like my evening, my stuff. And then, but I know like I'm too busy in the next 2 weeks. So started on September 11th. This is kind of thing. And then that was it. And then a few weeks later, I came back and wasn't happy about it and start like, okay, you can say like how it should show in your calendar, or I want this thing to always be free. It's not important currently, or it's massively important. I want to get into the habit. It's always busy. And that's something I didn't start on day one. It like slowly easing into it, getting a feel for it, and then start to play with priorities or play with like, there's even advanced option. I'm just going to show you. You can, that's the magic behind it. You can say, you can give it rules for duplicate events. So for example, if I just put an event in my calendar where I just, at this time frame, already did some AI blogging. So I say, if it has AI blogging in it, if any event on my day has AI blogging in it, it doesn't schedule it for a day because it also already happened. And that's what you can do with many, many different things. But as you said, it's likely overwhelming, and it's this like slowly chipping away at it that can be very helpful. Which, by the way, applies to everything. Don't start to learn a double backflip into handstand push-up. Start with a frog stand and make habits for it and get used to it and then go through it. While we're at it, just quickly showing it, it's a completely different thing, but for any, I'm quite sure it also exists for Windows, but I'm not 1,000,000% sure. So the Raycast that I'm using, that's a recent AI tool exploring. That's like your extension of the of your Spotlight. It also has an AI train. So they have a trained AI on it you can use for prompting, for doing stuff. You can write your own stuff that you can just pull up right from your Spotlight. So for example, like I want to translate something. So I can just go in and say like, maybe there's like a German email I can use to show you live. There's the German iPhone email. So I can just go in here and say like, translate to English. And it directly translates to me. Not that this was necessary, but I use it a lot with like, if I see messages in ATG for coaches that a client answered in like, whatever, like Spanish or so on. You can train your own AI and you can prompt it to do things for you and like do all of these things, and you can choose what you want to do. So you can say like, you can want ChatGPT to be used, then you have like a ChatGPT Pro account and it's accessible. You can use like Google Bard, whatever, things like this. Again, when I started using this, I went into the same trap. I installed 40 extensions and was completely overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh, all of these things. And I was like, no, wait a second. First, get used to the new shortcut, pulling this thing up for finding stuff. And I've been using this for a couple months now, and I slowly went for it. And I was like, oh yeah, I get used to like my reclaim. I can find my scheduling links. So now I use them all the time. Or there's like a clipboard history where, wait a second, that's my ChatGPT history, my clipboard history. So all of the stuff that I was copying is now in there, from images, from like links, from stuff like this. That's just helpful. If you sometimes copy important thing and close it, and then by accident, instead of typing Command V, you type Command Z, and you copy another thing. So like the fun thing if you copy email and password, and then you copy your email again, if something like this happens, this is super helpful. So I started to slowly go in there. Now that's literally what I'm doing. Every month, I usually pick one thing that I want to dive deeper into. For me, it's currently testing these like AI prompt. You can say like create AI command, and then this is like answer this. And the prompt is like act as my personal assistant. understand the context of the message. And that's a super boring, simple prompt. And then create a short, friendly AI for me. AI response. You don't have to say AI response for me, but for it. And then I say like creativity, go maximum creativity, like which model to go into. I have like the premium version, so it says like DaVinci or ChatGPT, whatever. You can go for ChatGPT. So I just create this command, and now I can go in here and say like, what's an important email? Here we go. This is text. It usually detects the language as well, but I'm going to take this German one now. I just pull up and say like, answer this. No, it's taking this thing. Hi there, thanks for getting in touch. It looks like it's been 2 years since we last spoke. What can I do for you today? It's actually true. I have not spoken to this person for some time. And this is kind of like what you slowly get into. And I have like just a few tools. And every few weeks, I build a new AI prompt for me, from summarizing stuff, creating me prompts. I've even started with like copywriting of it. Like oftentimes I have an idea for a copy, but then I have to go into my chatbot and tell it like, act as the copywriting now again and write me a copy. Now I have this thing that if I have an idea, I just go into our postboard on Notion and just copy it and just have my copywriting prompt, and it just does it in a second. Then I have like or create hashtags. If you're oftentimes struggling with hashtags, use the AI to pick the right 5, 10, 20 hashtags to do this stuff. And with all of these AI things, whether you're tech savvy or not, it's not a 0 to 100. It's slowly chipping away, as staying on it is much more important than trying to lead in this thing and like get the perfect thing going. Nice. Any questions so far before we come into the next one, hopefully even more exciting? Yeah, go ahead.
If you're working with a team or collaborating with someone, can you share tasks or like assign someone a task? Like, can you share, all of your tasks that you're doing and give them to them?
Yes and no. So they definitely have a team set up right in Reclaim. In one of the teams that I'm working, we're using in the following way. We have a team task management platform. I think like something like Monday, ClickUp, like depending on the project what you use. And then you can simply set it up that you just assign it on the platform, and then the Reclaim is connected to this person's task management. That's a benefit for me because not everyone in one of the gyms that I'm working with wants to use this thing, but we have a task management board. So it does automated scheduling of these things for me in my calendar. It just pulls the due date from my coworkers, then they set the due date when it needs to be done. It's scheduled as the earliest convenience for me getting it done. So that's a simple solution. I can also check about because I use it, like the Reclaim, they have a team set up for sure. I'm not fully sure that it does it for you already. They even now have team stats and things like this, but I don't know that I don't think you can, as of now, schedule it right through it. What is exciting, they have a board where they share what they're working on, where you can send feature requests in, and they have an amazing list of things they are working on. So that's always exciting if anyone is sharing what they're working, what they're building. So this is work in progress, yeah.
Thank you.
But absolutely, you're welcome. By the way, this is one of the things I find super cool in connecting with other coaches. Oftentimes, many softwares don't allow you to solve a problem right away, but they're amazing workarounds that 100% work like it would be built in. But we oftentimes give in because I've literally asked support teams, hey, does this work? No, it doesn't. Gave up. 4 weeks later, someone showed me, oh yeah, absolutely. You just have to do it like this. Oh, it works. Best example for this, I teach a lot of skill stuff where we have progressions. No coaching platform has progressions in it. So I gave it. Then I realized one of the platform has alternative exercises, and you can just use alternative exercises as progressions. So if I can give 5 alternatives, I can just call them level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I have my progressions to pick from. It's not labeled like this. No one thinks about it, but it exists. So just strongly vouching for speaking to other coaches, connecting, or joining such a summit. Then I'll hop back to sharing the screen and we come to the topic using essentially language models to help you with program creation, program design. Yeah, go ahead. Wait a second.
You,
Pete, did you want to ask something?
what are you doing? Coming back? What, is everyone coming back? Is everyone coming back?
Oh, it might be that.
Hey Pete, I think you got your mic on, unless you got a question for Franz. I mean, he is coming back.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't sure if my connection was breaking or anything else, but perfect. Okay, so all good, Pete. So the idea is the following. I kind of like noticed this, observed this by accident. But the idea is like large language models can understand various documents, coaching documents, text, and so on. That's what you can feed them. What if we can teach them to coach? And with this, I don't mean coding and coaching them. That's what we do in different projects. But like, if you don't want to code, just like you would educate a person, educate a chatbot, what would this require? How would it look like? So I want to show you like a quick demonstration. This is like the simple example I brought up a few times before. So if you have seen this before, I'm sorry, but I think it's still helpful and viable. So this is how I stumbled across, and that's why I used it. If I train plyometrics in a more fun way, we use this jumping framework in one of my coaching systems that just explains you how to train different types of jumps, how to combine them, and so on. So I wrote this text for client, a little disclaimer, explaining it as a text, like literally article, explaining to it, and giving them an example session of how it could look like with 2 parts, just to build this block into their regular. And then I gave them this table or chart with different variations to pick from, like your legs can change. You can take off single leg or double leg, or land single leg, double leg. And then if you land single leg, you can land with the same leg you jumped off or a different leg. So that's why we have 3, like ipsi or contralateral, single leg. We can have different momentums on the takeoff. So from a pause or dead stop to rebound or bounce start. And we can land in different ways, and so on. We can have different types of loading. We can jump and spay like on the place, forward, backwards, and so on. That's diving too deep, but this can be overwhelming to clients. And then by accident, I typed the prompt in, which was feeding me, like I said, continue this text, and it built me another session. And then another session. I was like, wait a second, these are different sessions. So then I realized I can prompt and say, like, create another example session for an intermediate athlete with a focus on momentum, for example. And then what it does is it builds you out this full session, which is practically correct. If you scroll up, you will see this is totally in line with what I was explaining in the session, which was a big breakthrough for me in a certain way, because I realized over the last 10 years, I wrote massive long coaching documents that go from scratch, explaining a topic to a client, and sometimes how to build their session or how to approach a topic. So if you write a proper long-term document that explains you how to build a session within a certain framework, your language model can act, and especially if you give it example sessions, which is very helpful because that's what it does. It takes this thing and the text it writes as similar as possible to this thing with the different prompts. So it kind of just replaces the 30 to 60 reps with 30 to 50, which is the new intermediate effort. And then it just says, okay, go for 15%. That's kind of like for me, it was a magical thing to detect this and realize, like, I can now write little articles that explain them how to do a meditation session or cool down. And just think a little bit further. If you do, like, this is just show, like, we're working on these things already in the back end, but just inspiring you as coaches. Let's say you have one of the most calm and exciting and relaxing voices that your client enjoys when you do their cool downs. And you have these different systems, how you guide them through cool downs. What if you can have your chat system write you the copy of a cool down, and you just use your like constructed generated voice with Whisper AI, Descript, whatever, to speak your cool down for your client as one example. You want the 5-minute cooldown, 10-minute cooldown. You want like go through the whole body or just like relaxing the neck. These examples. So just giving like one of the examples what you can do, or picking the right progression, picking the workout. And all it takes is the written down context that's understandable enough and not just do 3 by 5 goodbye. That would be a little bit too little information provided. So continuing with the presentation, this is essentially just a simple training framework. Was that it was too boring for a client that now allows me quick output of diverse sessions that just help them and save them some time. Do you have an AI tool for doing deep tissue massage cooldowns? That would be amazing, Max, but if your words are as powerful as the physical touch you might have, I have to say, this is just a fun little insight. I have to say, when I'm sitting next to a client and I'm guiding them through a meditation, I extremely quickly calm down. It helps me massively just saying it. It's nearly like empathetic, kind of like placebo style. I don't know how to explain it, but that's actually a thing. And I sometimes, when I want to calm down, I literally just read through meditation, even if I'm not in a position to fully go through. It can help you a lot. You can look into autogenic training as one of these things. It's exciting, but yeah, my AI doesn't do physical therapy. But let's go into some drawbacks. I know played with this a bit, and for example, like I wrote this thing, I fed it to like a chatbot that goes a bit deeper, and I said like I had previous conversations with it where I knew it knows ATG, knees of the toes guy. I asked it like, what are ATG exercises? It gave me the right exercises. And then based on a program, I said like, now build me this program. Anyone who knows ATG, they will neither do scorpions or Cossack squats for warm-ups. Wall slide push-ups are not common. Maybe dip pull-up combos and the couch stretches are common cooldown. But then it always used the child pose every single time in cooldown in these sessions that are not as common. Nordics are again thing, but warm-up with inchworms a bit weird. Skipping are not really a thing. What are ankle walks? So yeah, there are some drawbacks. You have to properly feed enough data. And like, I've had a nice chat about this with like Martin Hunt, and he did like one of the presentations at Uncom. I don't know, Max, did you speak on the summit?
No, he said he was too busy.
Okay. Anyway, we were talking about these things. So like in the end, what you can think about is first level is just you have the chatbot and you talk to it, build your sessions. But what if you can train a chatbot that your client can interact with? Or your employee can access all of your resources and you help your employees and stuff to better build sessions. And I would even go one step further. We're currently using different coaching platforms to build the client programs with like the gyms that I'm helping with some of the clients. Many of these sessions allow you to save training blocks. So for example, full warm-ups with multiple sessions, or complete workouts, complete supersets, circuits, and so on. So one of the things we're currently building is like a chatbot that just knows the names of these blocks and based on your goal builds you a session just with the titles. So then now my employee in the app just uses this as effectively their kind of like their layout. They just drag and drop stuff in to build the thing in the app, but how to build it, they get from a chatbot. So I can train people to know how to use coaching software, train a chatbot to be understanding enough to create amazing session based on my skill set. And now if you have a gym, if you work with a team, they can build these sessions on your knowledge. So sometimes can be easier to train a chatbot than training a person, or use them so if they're not confident enough. But as I said, there's some drawbacks. And that are oftentimes it's only partially trained. And oftentimes, or this was a very low quality prompt, with a little known subject, like ATG is not known, this thing wasn't trained on the variety of stuff in ATG. So most of the ChatGPT, most of like the instances where ChatGPT is used or different other like OpenAI language models are not usually not really smart coaches. We really need to train them first because they're more like an employee. And either you, like Samosi was doing so great, either you pay to build talent or you pay to buy talent. But talent doesn't come for free. And that's the same thing here. You can either buy a super expensive model and have a person that is like an advanced coaching skill set, or you can train it. But if you spend some time on giving enough volume and training data in like workouts you build and so on, and they're quality session that like not just super simple. There are some text and explanations, and it has enough logic behind it. We say like, if we want to do strength training, then we do this. If we want to do mobility training, then we do this. Then they build the session. And just to show you like one of the practical applications, how it's actually doing it, this is one of the demonstrations we did in one of the calls. I just wanted to quickly go through. I fed it a little PDF that's just like 30 kilobytes. It's a super small PDF that just explains some things about, that's how many sets and reps we do for strength, for hypertrophy, for mobility. And then I asked it to build a few sessions for 2 times a week, 3 times a week. The program was saying like 2 times a week, we want to do 7 sets, 3 times a week, 5 sets, 1 time a week, 10 sets. You can question the validity of this coaching. It's not about, it's just a simple model. But this thing is actually building you a nice little session with like a little warm-up, a strength session with Nordic curls and squats. For mobility, I said like, I want like a French press for tricep mobility. So I put it in there, 3 sets of 10 reps with a long pause in the bottom stretch position, because that's how it's briefed for mobility. And then I said like, okay, now only the hamstrings are missing. Then from the next version to this version, it put more hamstring work in, automatically picking the Romanian deadlift out of the library. And then I went a bit further and said like, can you create a 2-week schedule? It builds a 2-week schedule. It's not laid out. So now write out the sessions. Now it writes out the sessions for you. You see like this prompt, I was expecting laid out session. It's a shitty low quality prompt. So I don't get laid out sessions. I get this thing only. But if you build this better, oh, it's kind of like, why didn't you say so in the first place? And okay, you say in the first place, okay, now it's a nice session that it builds out with some like, this is your week 1. Week 2, it says the same thing, but same as week 1. Now I want a slightly different, like, can you adjust the frequency from 2 to 3 times a week per muscle group and adjust the volume accordingly? Here you see like 7 sets, 7 sets, 5 sets on these because it does it more often a week, 7 sets. Now we go to 3 times a week. It adjusted automatically all of these things to 5 sets a week because we said 3 times a week, do 5 sets. And that's just one of the example where I built it within like 30 minutes of just writing a text on some training stuff and just feeding it to a chatbot to help me build sessions. And it built not the worst sessions. Now imagine how much time it took you to learn. If you would really sit down and for like a month, write and train a chatbot in the sense that you just write nice articles and eventually feed them to them. By the way, if anyone has some questions, I'm super happy to help out with this stuff. Just shoot me a message and I'm happy to answer. But you can build these and train these slowly step by step. And they're going to actually spit out some nice little workouts for you that like bodyweight training workouts, whatever you want to have. And that's where I realized the first time we don't need some weird, crazy no-code platform. And we also don't need full programming understanding. What we need to know is, first, think about coaching a beginner. Things that you think are the most well-known, neither the AI nor your trainer will know. So you have to write very beginner-friendly articles. Just export them as PDFs, potentially even like export them as like a little library into a chatbot, whatever you want to do. It's going to write you great sessions. And then you can, I had a chat yesterday with an athlete and his brother is deep into AI and like AI technology. He was saying it's always these 3 steps of first validate, then systemize, and then automate. So before you automate things, first validate they're working. Like test your programs, test them with a chatbot. Iterate through, like, for example, are your prompts good enough? Do these things. Next level, systemize. Think about like, okay, that's what I do for volume. That's what I do for intensity. That's how I pick my exercises. Just write it down like you explain it to your employee, your trainee, your client. Write it down like this, you systemize it. And then you start to automate step by step. And I honestly believe you can write frameworks as any coach. And like Kenny was asking, I just use Claude because it's free and a bit more advanced than ChatGPT 3. You can use ChatGPT 4 and it's the same thing. Claude currently is only available in UK and in the US, so most of you can likely use it. but that's why I use Opera as a browser, because it has the built-in VPN. So I only have this browser slowed down through a VPN, and I can use this through a VPN as I'm over here in Germany, and I can use all of these things. They might be charging at a point in time, you need to use another one, but this is a free available chatbot that I just fed some stuff. It has 4 times the input. It can have 100,000 tokens. That's quite a decent input. So you can feed it some documents. It's actually going to spit out you some good things. And then you validate, you play with this, like maybe it's going to build you some cool cooldown routines, or it's building you like whatever you like a whatever meditation, nutrition protocol, habit, whatever it is, like anything you explain to a person as a text, as a framework, this thing can automate, because it's just a chat model that understands it. This is kind of the whole end up. Well, I'm just going to finish the presentation because I think I had 1 or 2 more things I skipped through. So yeah, the outlook essentially is we can train them on our own wikis. And again, we're cycling back to Notion. Many of you might be Notion, have your knowledge stored in there. There's a Notion AI already. If you can use your wiki and just know that it can do it now, you just change it, how you store your stuff, and you can train essentially simple text programs for your clients via chat. And then the more advanced you build it, you can actually fill in, like Notion can have little charts and sheets. So you can have little, whatever, mini tables that you can fill in their tracking if you want to do this. And you have a free coaching platform. You just say, generate a new session, replace these exercises, and you have all of these things done with proper laid out stuff. And the cool thing is, if you copy the links to your tutorials behind the exercises, the chatbot understands this. They will, every single time you write this thing, you write the exercise, they will have the link behind it. So it's always linking to your YouTube library of this exercise. All of these things are working. It's amazing. But since we only have 3 more minutes, are there any feedback, questions? Anything you're interested in? If not, if you're just like overwhelmed, it's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it wasn't that great of a presentation, so there's probably not a lot of questions.
Presentation.
Just kidding. Andres, you got something?
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe this is already possible. Could you integrate Claude into a website? So if you had like your own Wix website and you just wanted to have like it right there with all your information, is that possible yet?
Yeah, so that's why I was talking about Martin. Like there's multiple ways. I'm currently exploring one. There's one where you essentially just use ChatGPT as your model in a super simple way. You use Pinecone as essentially like your storage, your database, which is cost you cents to nothing at all. And then you use so-called Flowwise, which gives you like an interface where you can visibly drag and drop essentially logic for chatbots. So in a drag and drop interface, very simply looking, you can set up your own chatbot. It's hosted on a super simple platform. I've worked with this tutorial, I played it, I'm now trying to like simplify it. There are also many other platforms that allow you, or like they offer you to build your chatbots for you for just like a couple dollars a month. You get like a simple trained chatbot. It then comes down to, do you want to pay another $20, $30 to use a paid one, or do you only want to pay for usage, but have to set up like a very simple system? But in the end, what you can do, and that's what got me so excited, is I see this as a 3-layer system. Layer 1 is you take your knowledge, you just explain it to, like you write it down, and you take a chatbot to validate it, to understand, is it understandable enough for a chatbot? And it's likely also greatly working for your clients. That's great if you publish your wiki to your clients. As an example, Andres, you have all of this knowledge about like content creation and so on. You do videos about this because that's a great format, but maybe you also have a lot of text. If you have this stuff and you write these things, you could have this thing and you can validate with it. The second layer of it is then you can have this big thing, you can think about it, and it's prompting you custom-made guides for your client. So you have all of these sub-guides and say, create me one guide for my client. You feed it through a very simple software that makes it look nice. And then there you go. You have your like nice looking PDF. That's a customized guide based out of your knowledge. It's more personalized through a chatbot. That's layer 2. that's the same thing how I use this. Like every time my client told me they wanted to train, it took me 10 seconds to generate a new jumping session. Even the advanced version, just copy paste in a Telegram and send it. That's it. Just saves me like 90% of the time of manually writing it, and it always works. I'm still validating myself. I'm pasting it. Third level on top is now you have an kind of like an instance do this for you. This can be a staff member that just uses the chatbot and creates things and sends them to the people, so there's still a person in touch. Reason behind it being, we did test runs with our projects. People are willing to pay 90% less if a chatbot gives them the answer. If you train a chatbot for 1 year full time, and then the chatbot gives them the answer in a minute, they don't want to pay much because the chatbot did it. Even if the chatbot is as smart as you, that's the only downside in the current AI times. And that's kind of workaround. But that would be the other option. Besides, as an employee, you're training who uses the technology to provide it to it, you can absolutely have a chatbot trained on it. We just say like, what are the questions it can handle and how it's going to respond to it. And then you have this chatbot that builds these programs like this jumping framework or training programs on, you have it on your website. Like this could be an amazing free offer. Like you build it in a basic version, you don't feed it everything. And then they get like free sessions, say like, this is our system in basic, like the 10% of it. If you want the full thing, you come into my coaching and then you use it as well, but you also do still some stuff yourself. Like to give you one final example, if any one of you ever has questions about what coaching platform to use, that's one of the things that I love and talk about. But here comes a practical solution. Every of these platforms has many downsides and benefits. One of the platforms, Train Heroic, has the opportunity so that your clients can create their own workouts. For some time, I sold a service where my clients had access to my wiki and they were building their own workouts in Train Heroic, and I was just overseeing them, giving them feedback, form coaching, and so on, accountability. But they're building the sessions. Now imagine you have this chatbot where, based on the wiki, the chatbot gives them the text version of their workout, and they can still manually do it through the software as a solution. So there's many, many ways how you can integrate things like this with other coaching platforms, with your clients, with your stuff, and so on. And kind of like put it in your website, make it your sales. Like this is one of the things you can use it for sales and saying like, that's your free offer. That's still custom generated. And then you say like for the paid offer, you get the advanced custom creation from you, get like an individual video style, branding, logo, whatever your service is, if you're in this type of coaching. Yeah. Unlimited options, I would say. Nice. Any other questions? I know we're already 3 minutes over time, so. If not, maybe the thing that I would like to have as a takeaway for you is check some of the AI solutions. There's also others like Reclaim. One of them is called Motion. I can send a link in the chat. It does a bit more management. It's more pricey. Like Reclaim costs less than Calendly while doing more. Motion costs, I think, $80 a month, but claims to do much more than for your management. Motion with M, like not Notion, the Notion A, but Motion, like moving. And then if you want to use some things, just play with feeding any type of explanation to a chatbot and have it answer questions. If you feel like it's working for you, do more and more of it, and maybe can automate some things, whatever it is, especially if you're in the world where you have some text-based explanation, this is massive. Even if you do some like branding, consulting, things like this, it can help you. Any knowledge, any IP you have in a text base, you can repurpose through language models. Nice. That's my last sentence. Awesome. Then thanks everyone for tuning in. Max, I'll give it to you.
Oh, thanks. Amazing. Loved it. We're going to move on to Cliff. Appreciate your time, Franz.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.